Stallings from First Horizon Mortgage. Good afternoon, Brad. It's actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon there.
Good afternoon, John, to you.
Let me ask you, before we get going, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your background and what your market area is and where you are and how you got into business.
Well, I actually started with Carlisle Brown Mortgage, who has since been purchased by First Tennessee Bank, and we're now called First Horizon Home Loans. Started with Carlisle Brown Mortgage right when I graduated from school back in August of 1989, and I started in Kansas City, and where their main office was at that time, and was farmed out to a couple different markets before landing in Arizona in it was September of 1991. Actually September of 90, and then I started here in Phoenix in 12 of 91. And been in Tempe ever since then, and really interviewed with a few different people after I got out of school. And
where'd you go to school?
Went to the University of Kansas. And
how'd you end up in Arizona?
Well, interesting thing is that Carlisle Brown had always had offices out here, and the way they used to do business with their loan reps was that they would teach them the business in Kansas City and then send them out to different offices that they had across the country.
Yeah, it's very unusual.
Different than most people. Yeah, most people you would hire from the market you were from.
Wow, very interesting.
But yeah, that's how I landed here.
It's like getting parachuted in.
Right. Which was interesting. I started was first farmed out to Indianapolis, then went to Virginia, then down to Tucson, and then here, all within about a 2-year time frame. And changed for various reasons, but was fortunate to be here. They had one of their better offices here in Tucson and Tempe, so this was a good market for me to end up in, and that's why I'm still here.
Well, obviously you've done well. I know in '98 you did $35 million, and I know out there, what are your average loan amount?
I would say our average loan amount, or my personal average loan amount, is probably about $135,000.
About $135,000. Yeah, because that's reflective of actually some larger numbers, in other market areas. Let me ask you something. When you started off, obviously you had been around a little bit, so you had some idea of how to conduct your business. But once you went to Tempe, how did you resurrect yourself and start doing business again?
Well, it's interesting because I had the opportunity to learn probably basically under four different managers at that time from the different places I had worked in the different cities. I was able to take the right things and learn the wrong things in a pretty short period of time. And once I got here in Tempe, I felt pretty confident that I knew what it would take to be able to procure my own business. And I took the experiences that I had from the past and basically got out and got out on the streets and put my name out there and was able to build some relationships. It took a little bit of time, but once it started, it was a situation where it would spread from one agent to the next, and I'd have to get in good with one agent in an office, and then hopefully once everything took off from there, they would recommend me to other people, and that's really how it worked, not only with the builder environment, but also with the real estate agents I do business with.
Well, the realtors, when you got parachuted in there, did you start just knocking on doors with realtors? I mean, did you have a game plan?
Absolutely. That's what I had to do, and really what it was, I started with a couple of smaller builders and some real estate agents that were in an office very close to where our office was located. And really what I had found out, John, was it was just a matter of constantly being there for them. And I had one agent tell me when he sent me his first deal that he said to me, if you're working this hard to get a deal from me, just one deal, imagine what it's going to be like once I send it to you and how closely you're going to watch that and how much care of that loan you're going to take. And I think that was really something that told me that, hey, you just need to be out there constantly. You need to be available constantly to these people. And from that, I realized that, once I get a shot at it and people can see that I have the support staff to help me out and we can do what we say we're going to do, then it goes from there. And it's just a matter of constantly being out in the field. In the beginning, when I first got here, didn't know anybody. There was no reason for me to be in the office. And I spent all of my time out just calling on people.
Did you encounter any opposition? Different areas of the country have companies now, as you well know, that have controlled business arrangements with mortgage subsidiaries, and it makes it a little more difficult to get in. Do you experience that out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes on in Arizona with regard, especially the builder community. A lot of the builders have their own mortgage companies these days, and they offer incentives that are pretty lofty incentives that make it difficult for an outside lender like myself to be able to hold on to that deal. And that's why we've shifted our business to concentrate almost solely on the real estate agent side of it, and directly to the agent rather than dealing with the builder. And you know, a lot of those relationships I've had for ever since I got out here, 8-9 years. So they've been ones that have grown, and I've grown as the agent's business has grown as well. So most of our business is the real estate community, and not so much the builder environment.
What about the with respect to the realtors understanding who your listeners are out there in the loan officer universe? What specifically can you recommend that loan officers do to get realtor business specifically?
Well, I think the main thing is you have to have something of value that you can offer the real estate agent. You have to have something that is going to separate you from everybody else in town, whether it be a program that you offer that not every lender in town is willing to offer, whether it be the fact that you are going to be available to them and their client on a regular basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which you know is pretty much the way the real estate community operates. You have to be available. But the main thing that I've found more than anything else is that if you put the time into putting together a game plan to go after a certain real estate agent, and you have a system in place that you stick to, I've found that over time you're going to set yourself apart from other people. And we have a system in place here that helps newcomers come in to our office and be able to get out in the streets with something of value that they can offer to the real estate agent and the real estate agent's client that is going to make that real estate agent feel comfortable sending us the transaction.
And what are some examples of something of value?
We have a.
Oh, and by the way, I do need to caution you. We're not interested in talking about anything, proprietary to your company, but in a general sense, though, it's not a problem. Because a lot of people do.
Here's one thing that we have that we have done and put into place probably a couple of years ago. We had a gal that we hired to specifically help not just myself, but all of my loan reps to be able to be an aid to them, to do the things that a loan officer is not able to do, and those things are as follows. We have a system set up, we have a database that we have created that we generate form letters that we send out to all of our past clients just to stay in touch with them. We have a newsletter that we send out. We do birthday cards. On loans that come in, we have status reports that are done weekly that send out not only to the buyer but to the listing agent, to the selling agent. And once again, we do have different letters that we set up, different projects that we put together that constantly keep us in touch with the real estate agent and with the past clients. And it's a referral-based business, obviously, what we do, and every letter that we send out, we ask for the referral. And it's been one thing that we've seen over the last couple of years, that if you constantly ask for that referral, you're going to be in a position where eventually people are going to start giving you the referrals, and over time it builds and builds and builds to the point where you don't have to spend so much time out of the office because a lot of your business is coming in from what you created in years past.
Which is really kind of the name of the game,
right,
is to bring it to where you're getting at least 50% referrals.
Right, and I think where we have an advantage is that we have somebody set up in the office that handles that for all of the loan reps. They don't have to after they take a loan application, enter it into the database and take care of putting all these letters together and sending them out and doing the newsletters and being in a situation where they have to worry about, okay, now I've got to send out these birthday cards on this date because this is when their birthday is. I mean, all this stuff is handled, and it's an extra added feature that we have for all of our reps that really, I think, sets us apart. There's not many other lenders out there, I think, that are doing these types of things on a regular basis. So I think that it's been something, because we've been consistent with it, that we've really started to see results.
Well, I think in a general sense you're correct. I would split a hair with you here on this and say that for those companies that aren't doing it, at least the top producers that I interview, with fairly rare exceptions, and usually they're doing a good business and don't need to if they got a good excuse. But most of the loan officers that are out there that excel, they do have some sort of a system themselves, whether it's ACT or Goldmine or whatever it is. They do the same thing you're doing.
Right. And you're probably right. And it's just that the real estate agents I do business with, a lot of them tell me that nobody else does this type of stuff. And perhaps this is just, in my market and the people that I deal with, it's not something that is very common.
I find that an interesting comment, and I tell you what, I think our listeners will out there too, because that says to me that the people I interview, and I only interview people, who've done at least 30, 35, in many cases a lot more volume. These are people that have characteristics where they're using these as a natural extension of themselves and the way they do business. They have good habits. But when I hear comments like that from you, saying that the feedback that you're getting is that very few people are doing it, that's kind of a sad commentary on the nature of the business. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer to go out and spend $99 or $199, whatever it is, get ACT, and learn it in 5 hours and get out there and do your business.
You're exactly right, and I think the point that you make is very well taken. But I also know that there's a lot of people in our business that probably shouldn't be in our business, and I think those are the types of people that perhaps are the ones that I don't want to say they're in it part-time, but are in it so that when things are good, they're really in it, and when things get a little tight and rates go up, then they kind of fade away a little bit. So.
Right, but there's a second side to that. Sword's got two edges on it, and the other flip side of the coin is a lot of people out there listening to saying that's good because it gets all the garbage out. Number one, and second, it gives you the ability to distinguish yourself.
Right.
I mean, the people out there actually like to have people like that out there in business.
Right, and that's a good point too. But I think that the point I'm making is that over time, the people that stay in the business for an extended period of time, you don't have a choice but to put together systems like we have and like other top producers have done. You have to do these things because this is the nature of our business. It's gone to this level where you have to be on the cutting edge with how you transact your business, and I think that we've come a long way from when I first started here in '91 to putting ourselves in that position, and if you don't do that, you're going to fall behind. And I think obviously you would probably agree with me on that.
Oh yeah.
What you said in the past. So, but it's something that you have to constantly evolve with. I mean, our business is ever changing, and it's becoming very technical, and with the internet and so forth, we've been able to do some things on there where we think we're up with the times on the internet and websites and so forth. So these are the kind of things you have to do.
Yeah.
You can't just do things the way you did back in the early '90s because it's not going to work.
Well, what are some of the new things that you think are necessary for loan officers out there to succeed? They were a little different than when you came in 7 or 8 years ago in Arizona.
Well, I think the internet stuff is pretty important to give the client the opportunity to get on the internet at home and fill out an application, email it over to us here in the office, download it into our system, and get the loan approved within 24 hours. I mean, people want that, and they want to have the convenience of being able to do that. And I think that not everybody on their biggest purchase of their life is going to want to have everything handled over the internet and have all that information out there for people to see. But there are those out there that think that this is the way the future is going to be, and this is what they want, and you just have to make sure you make it available to them. And I would say probably 20% of the people we do business with want to have the internet available to them for transacting their business, and that number will probably continue to grow as internet security grows and becomes people become more comfortable with it. So I think that's pretty critical part of our business in the future.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting subject, and you're actually putting a little bit different angle on it than normally when we talk about it. Usually the context of the Internet when it comes up in the interviews is the fact that the Internet is being used by people out there primarily as an informational vehicle, if you will, just like the car business. They're going in, they're looking up the models and color and everything, but at some point they're going out and kicking that tire. And the Internet business out there is probably most people I've talked to and people I've interviewed and read about and everything, they're kind of predicting somewhere, 10 to 15% of the business. You're talking a little bit higher, but you're talking about a little bit different context after, if I can read this right, you're talking about not just capturing people for your company on the Internet, it's also the ability of them to offer a high service level to use the Internet. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yes. I think that people, as I said before, want to be able to have that access. And I'm not saying that all of them will utilize it or even go into our website and take a look at it and see what we're all about. But I think that knowing that it is available is pretty critical. I mean, here in Arizona, we've got some pretty big corporations that deal a lot with that type of product. Intel's here and has a pretty good presence here in the East Valley where I'm located. Honeywell's down here. Motorola obviously has a couple of plants here. So there's a lot of that type of buyer out there, and a lot of the agents that I deal with cater to those type of clients and customers, and it's something that they deal with those clients on a regular basis, and they want to be able to have that option when it comes to buying a home as well. So I think you're right. I think not only is it important to have access to be able to obtain information on the Internet, but to be able to actually do your loan that way and go back and forth with status of your file in the email is pretty critical as well.
Right. And I think, when we talk about 20%, it's not something to be poo-pooed. It kind of reminds me of the old Everett Dirksen quote, years ago. A billion here, a billion there, and before you know it, you're talking real money.
Right.
And he said that back in the 50s.
Right.
So I think the companies out there and the people that are listening to this that do not have a presence at all, you're giving up business. And if you're giving up, whether it's 5 or 10 or 20 or whatever that percentage is, if you give a little up there and then you're not doing something else and you're giving another little 2 or 3% sliver up there, before you know it, you're talking real business.
That's exactly right. It adds up, and I just think it's important for us to be able to offer all the tools to everyone out there. Even if it doesn't get used by everybody, to have it available is pretty important for us to put that on a resume when we're trying to get a buyer or a real estate agent.
Right. What else do you do for realtors out there that you think distinguishes yourself from some of the others?
Well, I'd have to say that one of the things that I've always held in as being part of my, I don't know, that maybe sets me apart is that I do accept phone calls all the time. I'm always available, and I know that this is probably stuff that people talk about all the time, that you have to do that, but you'd be surprised how many people will put off things until Monday when actually the real estate agent needs to have something done over the weekend, and I really don't have a problem. And I think that's where another thing where technology comes into play. If you have the ability to have all the access to all the information at home, and you can get on your computer and you can print your pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters to give to an agent when they present an offer on a contract, I mean, it just makes it so much more convenient for them. They don't have to think that they're putting you out over the weekend to call you and have stuff done. So, my thing is pretty simple, John. I've always felt that if you work hard, you're going to set yourself apart from a lot of the people in our business. And it's just something that I've always felt. I got that from my father when I was young, and from what he did when he was in his professional life, and I think that's something that's carried over, and I've never let that go. And it's easy to get burned out. If you have a year like 98, a lot of people figure, it wore you out. But if you think about it, it's part of the business, it's part of the game, and when you discipline yourself to do that on a regular basis, it becomes just habit, and you don't even think twice about it.
I assume just from the way that you were talking a little bit earlier that you have a laptop or a PC at your home and actually use it. Are you all set up so that you can actually DU out of your home?
Not out of our home. No, don't have that yet, but that is coming, I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be getting there soon. A lot of that has to do with legalities with the bank and what they want to do and what they don't want to do. But, to have the access to the laptop and be able to get into my system and get into my databases is pretty important to have that on an ongoing basis. And I think we're going there. We're not there yet, but hopefully that's going to be something we do.
Well, you're right. There are some proprietary and confidentiality things that have to be overcome with that sort of a thing. But there is going to come a day where everything's going to be done off of laptops and wireless laptops at that, and you'll be able to sit in front of somebody, knock it out, and get an actual DU decision 24/7, 365.
No, yeah, you're totally right, and I think it's becoming more and more important. I think these days, and that's why so much of what we do these days is we'll do phone applications if people don't have access to the computer to email us an application. I mean, we do a phone application, we download it in the system, we get an answer less than 24 hours, and at that point, you kind of got the buyer on your side because you've got them completely and totally approved, subject to a couple of conditions, and then at that point they know they're done. I mean, they just got to get us the paperwork, sign an application after the fact, and it's finished. But at least you've done the part to say, hey, listen, it's done, you're approved, let me get the letter over to your agent, and we're ready to move forward, go find yourself a house.
Mm-hmm.
So you just cut down on the time, the lag time between when you talk on the phone, mail out an application, wait for them to gather it up, put it all back into you. I mean, a lot of things can happen during that time frame, and I think it's important not to have that lag time and to cut to the point, especially as competitive as it is in this market right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I had an interesting discussion not too long ago with someone on basically the theory of whether realtors are still controlling most of the clients that are coming through the process vis-a-vis going direct. And I just wonder kind of how your feelings are on this.
I think it's changing. I think if you asked me that question 5 years ago, I'd say yes, the agent was in control, total control. It's not that way anymore. I think the media has changed that. I think that the media has people looking at a lot of different sources, i.e. the internet and the print media and stuff like that to get information about loan products out there. And you read articles all the time in the paper about, in the real estate section about you need to shop this, shop that, shop for everything. And a lot of the customers becoming very wise. And I would say that, yes, I think that the agent still ultimately probably does have most control, but I think that's changing. I think it's becoming more evident that the customer is tackling a lot of this on their own and feels confident in the information that they're obtaining.
Mm-hmm. And you're using the right word too, information they are obtaining, because they still like to do that face-to-face and they want that touchy-feely with somebody, a loan officer.
Right. Yeah, I think that the loan officers are still obviously going to be very important because, as I said before, you're talking about the biggest purchase that most people make ever in their life, and they want to feel comfortable and perhaps not, even if it's not seeing a person face-to-face, at least talking to somebody over the phone that they feel comfortable about and that somebody has referred to them, that they know that they're not going to have anything derogatory happen during that transaction. It's going to go as smooth as possible, mm-hmm. and the person's going to handle it professionally.
Yeah. Let me ask you now, you're a branch manager?
That's correct.
And how many loan officers?
We have 5 loan officers underneath me.
Okay.
6 originators, 6 people bringing in loans.
Okay. Well, my question is, do you still get out there face-to-face and hit the realtor offices and take loan apps face-to-face?
Yes, I do. I get out. I try to set a time at least once a week where I can get out and go call on people and just, to say thank you or to meet somebody new. One of the projects we're doing right now is we've pinpointed and targeted 6 agents per rep that we don't currently get business from, that we're trying to get business from. We've done a 6-letter mailer that we've sent out just talking about the different programs we have available and the different products that we can put together for these agents, and now we have a packet that we've put together that all of us are going to go call on this real estate agent or these 6 agents that we've picked and actually try to set up time to sit down, talk with them, and go through how we can help them with their business.
Mm-hmm. So I like that. That's a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I mean, you've got to have a plan to get out there and do that kind of stuff.
Right, and that's where this person that I hired a couple of years ago, I mean, she has the time to actually set these things into motion. And you can talk about a lot of things, but as we all hear, action speaks louder than words. And I actually have somebody who can be the action side of my talking, and she can put these things together and get out there and put the projects together, get us all together in our weekly meeting and say this is what we're going to do, and it's pretty critical to have her, and it's been important for me to continue to do what we've done.
Is she a company-paid employee or a mixture?
Right. Yes, she's company-paid.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea because they're going to earn their salaries back many times over.
Right, exactly right. And I've set her up in a system where, depending on how business goes, she's going to get paid a bonus.
Oh, sure. Sure. Everybody in this business. And one of the reasons brokers and bankers, mortgage bankers, have been so successful vis-a-vis loan officers who work in banks and S&Ls is the fact that everybody's incented.
Right.
And they you don't get out there, you don't eat, but if you get out there and do the job, you can live on a nice big boat.
Right. And I think it's important not only just for, this type of person who helps generate income and business for us, but even the staff internally, we have set up on a bonus system as well so that, everybody wants to work as a team. If everybody's getting paid on total amount of units closed per month, the bonus is dependent upon that. I've got interchangeable parts where I've got processors that can close and closers that can process. I think everybody can help out when people are out on sick or on vacation. We've got people that can step in and because they know that they're all a big part of this final bonus that gets paid at the end of the month. So it gives them incentive to make sure that everything gets done.
Do you think it's important I know this kind of begs the obvious, well, of course, answer, but actually looking for something a little more specific. Do you think it's important out there to have a good infrastructure set up in your office?
I believe totally in that. I think that somebody told me years ago, you can be the best salesman in the world, but if you don't have the staff supporting you, you can fall on your face. And I think it's for us, that's a perfect example. I think I think the average person I've had in my office here, the clerical help that I have, has been with me for at least 5 years. And so we've got a history behind us. We've got not only is the rep known, but the rep's help is known out in the field as well. And to know that they're going to get the same consistent service over and over again because we've kept the staffing the same. It's been pretty critical for us and important for us to keep it that way. So, yeah, I think, like you said, the infrastructure is important, and it's been a big part of why we've been successful here.
Mm-hmm. Your loan officers, do you make calls with them on realtors? Or?
Most of them, we just hired a new gentleman that yes, I will go out with. He's been with us about a month, and he's still learning the ropes of what's going on with our company, but he will be one that I will go out with. Most of the other ones have been in here long enough that they don't need that. Mm-hmm. They're independent on it. If they want me to, I certainly will.
Yeah. What kind of company training program do you have?
We have, at First Horizon, they have what they call First Horizon University in Dallas. It's our main office. It's a 2-week program where the new reps are sent down to Dallas, and they're there for the whole 2 weeks. And it is an 8 to 5 deal for the whole 2 weeks, and it basically teaches them everything about what First Horizon is all about, and it pretty much teaches them mortgage banking 101 there. So it gives them some good sales ideas, sales tools that they can use out in the field immediately. It gives them some disciplines that they need to have, and it helps out tremendously because a lot of times when you're originating manager, it's difficult to take as much time as you probably should to spend with the new reps and make sure that they're coming along the way they're supposed to. So
yeah, I've always thought that that's one of the inherent one of the reasons for the raison d'etre for a company, so to speak. And I'm not trying to tout this as much as the issue itself, and that is it is hard out there with margins so thin to have a producing manager out there that can devote unlimited amounts of time for training of loan officers.
Right. It makes it difficult, and that's why, for the most part, at this stage of the game, we're trying to find experienced people. As you know, there's a lot of consolidating going on in our business right now, and that does tend to give opportunity for some hirings of experienced loan officers out there, and kind of what our goal is, so that when they come in here, it's just a matter of learning our system, not learning the business.
Right. What kind of contractions are you seeing out there? And there definitely is one going on. Even have some numbers that can support that from the top guru, the numbers guy in the business, told me that by the year 2000, by the end of the year 2000, you'll see the 90,000 loan officers in the country shrink to a pool of about 67.5.
Right, and I think that that's just going to continue. I think as we become more and more automated, the people that don't become automated are the people that shun the automation, are the ones that are going to be thinned out. I mean, that's where it's going to get to the point where it's not going to be needed to have as many in our business, and it's going to become something that, if you don't keep up with what's coming down the pike, then you're going to be in a position where you're going to get passed over, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that, and not to mention there's a lot of people, with the consolidations that take place, and there's been a couple. I mean, there's been some people that have gone through consolidation and then right after that go through another. When you have different banks buying each other, a lot of people get frustrated with that and decide either to get out of the business altogether or decide to do a different side of the business instead of really changing. So.
But don't you find that it's kind of interesting when you say something like that, my retort on this is that where can you find a business where you can be in it for 2 or 3 years and be making a six-figure income as a young person?
Right.
And getting an annuity on top of it.
Well, the thing is that it's interesting that you say that, because it was one of the first things I was told when I started right out of school. I was 21, 22 years old, and one of the guys that I worked with in Kansas City just said, he goes, you keep doing what you're doing, keep working hard, put your time in, and learn the business, and it's not out of the question by age 25 you'll be making, a six-figure income. And I heard him say it, and I thought to myself, God, wouldn't that be great? But that probably won't happen. Well, it did, and it can, and it's just a matter of believing that it can happen, and it is happening out there. And I think what scares a lot of people away is the straight commission. I mean, people come out of school, they don't want to hear straight commission. They don't want to be in a position where they're going to have to not know month in and month out what they're going to make. And for me, it was one of the decisions I made early after conversing with a number of different people that this is what I want to do. Let's take a chance and see what happens. And I think I've got the work ethic drive to make it work. And fortunately, it did. It happened, and I won't ever go away from it because I like to control my own destiny.
Well, see, that's the offside to it. First off, yes, you can. The second part to the equation is that unless you have good work habits and you're reasonably intelligent and you do the things that you need to do to form relationships, no, you're not going to make it. But once you do those sort of things, and if you have those kind of qualities, the sky's the limit.
Right.
There's a lot. You tend to hear about all the high tech people and the computer people that are making a lot of money. I got news for you. If you look, I was reading an interesting article on average salaries in the high tech business, and if you look at the kind of the top tech rungs of programmers and systems engineers and whatever, the average salary on these things goes anywhere from about $75,000 to like $82,000, and these are for top tech people. Now, there is a certain level, obviously, that's making a lot more than that, and especially some of the management, with options and stuff like that. But in this business, making $75,000 is a big nothing.
Right.
It's almost a sign that you're not very good.
That's exactly right. And that's the thing that when one of my first managers told me that if you put the time and the effort in, it will happen for you. And once you get to a certain level, the only person who's going to take you off that level is yourself. And it's very true, because you get to a point where if you develop good habits, you start to work smarter and not have to work as hard, you can maintain those levels and continue to grow those levels without having to put as much effort in as you did in the beginning of your career. And you make a good point about the high tech people and what their average salary is, and it's very amazing that in this business there is such a wide number of what the proper way to say this is, but it seems surprising that after all the years that I've done this, I don't think that our business is all that difficult to do. I think it's one that is very repetitious, but
which is not necessarily a negative.
No, not at all. And I think that it's when I think of myself, and yeah, I got my college degree from the University of Kansas in business administration, general business administration, and have I used a lot of that out here in the field? Probably no, not at all. I mean, whereas a lot of these technical people have to, what they study in college and what they've learned once they start at these big companies is things that they have to continue to grow with, whereas in our business it's not that way. And you're right, it's pretty amazing that we have the opportunity to make the kind of money we do doing what we do, but I'm glad this is what I do. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and I think having that drive to do something different, to increase your knowledge, it's fundamental to success. I had a good friend of mine that just died. He was actually this upper 80s guy named Jan Karski, who is one of the taught at Georgetown University. Government was a fraternity brother of ours, where I got to know him on a little more intimate scale. And he was the first person that went in to the Warsaw Ghetto, and then also went to one of the concentration camps, and then was snuck back out and went over and talked to Roosevelt and some of the others. And he's now, he just died, and is a real historical figure. But the interesting part to him is that he thirsted for knowledge so much and doing different things and expanding his mind. Not only ended up speaking 6 languages, when he was finished working, he would go out and buy homes and rehab the homes himself, just to learn how to do something different. And it was that incredible thirst for knowledge. I mean, he was legendary with it. And I think by extension, and maybe this is very tangential to try and make a connection like that, but I think having that thirst of knowledge for wanting to do stuff differently, to go to the Todd Duncan schools, to go to the universities that you have within your own company, just that ability to learn and get out there and do things. That's what's going to make somebody successful.
Right. I agree, and I think there is an analogy that you can create from what you just said about that gentleman and with what is involved in our business. I think that because our business changes dramatically, and it changes very, very quickly, and there's new product coming out all the time that in reality, I mean, there's so much product out there, it's very difficult for everybody to stay on top of it. But those who do stay on top of it, those who have knowledge, and when you get a customer on the phone and that customer's comparing you with 6 different lenders, and you walk through them all the different possibilities and opportunities they have and the different product line that you can offer, the more knowledge you have when you're talking to that customer, the more they're going to remember everything about what you said. And it's more than just giving a person a quote over the phone and then hanging up. It goes a lot deeper than that. And I think that I've learned over the years that the more information I give people, the more they respect the information I've given them, and the more that I'm going to be apt to get that deal because of the fact that I gave them the time of day and gave them options.
Yeah.
I think you constantly have to stay on top of our business because it's always changing and the product line is always changing, and your knowledge is critical when we're talking to customers over the phone.
Yeah, right, exactly. And not only that, I think where it really comes to the forefront is in your ability to deal with realtors. There's a lot of loan officers out there, people who are listening to this now, who are reasonably new, and even those that have some experience who really, I don't think, put a lot of emphasis on getting that depth of knowledge of the products that you need, that getting in all regs on their own and learning all the regulations. But knowledge in this business really is power. And with a realtor, you make a mistake with a realtor, you got a problem.
Right. You don't get a second chance.
No.
You don't get a second chance.
No, they're going to go someplace new.
Right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that, as you know, there's so many options for realtors out there now. It doesn't, and I think if the truth be told, I think one of the sadder aspects of our business is the fact that the loyalty of realtors that when I was younger, that wasn't very high in the first place, that overall loyalty really gets severely tested today. They have a lot of options. Realtors get real nervous. First thing goes wrong, first mistake you made, and before you know it, you're off their mental list.
Right, and I think that's why it's important to have the knowledge that you and I were just talking about, to be in a position where you can constantly keep on top of the transaction, make sure, and have the staff behind you that will alert you to any issues that come up immediately. And I think that's part of the reason why we've done as well as we have, is because of the fact that we've stayed on top of our product line. We've understood what can happen in a transaction, and we've got a lot of people that can handle any pitfalls that do come up, and they don't even get outside of the office. Nobody ever knows about them. So it's impossible for every deal to go absolutely perfect, but if you have the troubleshooters in your office who can catch that stuff prior to it becoming a big issue outside of the office, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right, exactly.
Right. I mean, the real estate agent community out there doesn't allow for that kind of stuff to happen, because you are supposed to be an extension of them. They expect you to treat their customer the way that they are treating their customer. And every agent's different, but you have to conform with every different agent and act the way that they would want you to act, that they would act towards their customer.
Right. And you've made a very valid point, and I think on this high point, I think I'd like to end the interview. I think your comments are very valid, and they seem at times to be very basic. But ours is a very basic business. Know your product, know how to close, get out there, work hard, be available. Things that get repeated over and over. And yet, when you get feedback that from realtors that other loan officer, either companies or loan officers don't do this sort of stuff, it really kind of tells you that there's a lot of people out there that are talking the talk, but when it comes time to walk the walk, they're not doing it.
Right. I agree 100%. And like you said, a lot of things I say are basic, but in our business, that is the way it is, and the way I look at it, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right, exactly.
You need to do what has gotten you where you are.
Right.
And I've always believed that.
Well, look, thank you so much. It was nice talking to you, Brad, and we'll keep in touch.
Great, John. Thank you.